going to get a big surprise in Season 4 when Mackenzie proposes to Bluey. Are you ready to find out what this story might be like? Escape. Maybe it's not such a good idea to say that Bluey will run away to meet Jean-Luc. Relax, that sounds really strange, but it actually makes a lot of sense. Everyone knows that our main character will marry the border collie and have a daughter with him. But what does that have to do with Jean-Luc? Actually, it has everything to do with it. Bluey may end the story with Mackenzie, but before that, she will date Jean-Luc, and the two of them will stay together for a while until their relationship eventually ends. Let's be honest, most people don't marry their first boyfriend or girlfriend. Frisky and Bosco can say a lot about that. Bluey may run away on the day of the wedding to talk to Jean-Luc, not because she is still in love with the Labrador, but because she is a very good friend of his and wants to make sure Jean-Luc is truly okay with her marrying Mackenzie. Their friendship is so strong that the two of them need to have one final conversation. It's not romantic at all, but rather a demonstration of respect and care. If this theory turns out to be true, you're going to see one of the most emotional episodes ever, and we're going to show you everything that might happen on Bluey's wedding day. You already know, right? Another Cinewave is starting. Time. Another thing you can expect with absolute certainty is that this wedding episode, known as Rings and Barks, will last at least an hour and a half. We know this for several reasons, but the main one is because of what happened in the episode The Sign. Frisky's wedding day had several stories happening at the same time. The two main ones were the wedding itself, with Frisky running away and almost giving up on becoming part of the Healer family, and the other storyline was the future of the family house, because Bandit still wanted to sell it and move to another city. Other things happened as well, like us discovering that Chili's sister is pregnant and that Grandpa Bob is still alive. To tell all those stories, the episode needed 49 minutes. Now, if showing Frisky's wedding day took almost an hour, how much time do you think it will take to tell the story of our main character's wedding? Of course, we're going to get the biggest episode ever so far, and that's why we have some good news. If this episode really ends up being an hour and a half long, and if this theory is actually confirmed, then get ready, because that would mean we're getting another Bluey movie in addition to the one already confirmed for next year. Could it even premiere in theaters? Let's hope so. Narrator. Another thing we need to tell you is that this episode may have a narrator. At least that's what people online have been strongly suggesting, and the internet couldn't stop talking about it. If this theory turns out to be true, then we have a few theories about who that narrator could be. The last episode where this happened was in the story Cricket, when Mr. Healer was telling us how Rusty became so good at the sport. That's why the first option is that the narrator of the wedding will be Bandit himself. He would remember Bluey and Mackenzie's childhood and how the two of them fell in love. It makes sense to have Mr. Healer as a storyteller because he's very good at it, but not this time. He shouldn't be the one talking about Mackenzie and Bluey's love. The one who needs to tell this story is the one who actually lived it, and that's why we're certain that if this theory becomes real, the narrator will be the border collie himself. At the end, we would discover that Mackenzie was telling his daughter, the little pup we already saw at the end of Season 3, how he met Bluey, fell in love with her, and of course, how they got married. And this might even be the episode that starts the series about Bluey's daughter. Here on the channel, we call her Roxy. Could this story be called Fairy Tale Part 2? That's very possible. Would you like to have your story narrated by Bandit? Comment the hashtag Bandit so we can get to know you. New Zealand. Bluey's wedding might take place in New Zealand, and as strange as that may sound, it actually makes a lot of sense. The truth is that the border collie Mackenzie came from that country, and his entire family probably still lives there. This could even become a reason for an argument between Bluey and her fiance, but let's imagine how that might happen. Bluey wants to get married in Australia, just like Frisky did, in the backyard of the Healer house, but Mackenzie prefers having the ceremony in New Zealand. So how would they solve that? Maybe the two of them would argue for a while, but in the end, Bluey would accept that the wedding should take place in New Zealand with Mackenzie's whole family, for one very simple reason. It's only fair that it happens that way. Mackenzie moved to another country with his parents, leaving the rest of his relatives back in New Zealand, and on top of that, he will now live in Australia with his wife. They're going to spend their entire lives in Australia, so having a wedding in another country country just to make Mackenzie happy wouldn't really be such a big problem, right? Pavlova. But there will also be a war. Don't worry, it's nothing bad. Actually, it will be a food war in a really fun way. You probably remember the episode called Pavlova, when Bingo really wanted to eat a piece of a beautiful and delicious dessert that was in the fridge, but Bandit wouldn't let her. The truth is that this dessert, Pavlova, is actually a point of debate between Australia and New Zealand because both countries claim they invented it. Now imagine how funny this will be. On Bluey's wedding day, the two families coming from those two countries will be together. Of course, at some point someone will bring that up. They might argue a little, but there's nothing wrong with a friendly competition on a wedding day, right? Bluey's grandma, Nana Chris, could prepare her recipe for the celebration, while Mackenzie's grandmother prepares hers, and everyone will vote to decide which one tastes the best. We still don't know who would win, but the truth is that the real winners would be the kids, because they would get to eat lots of recipes of one of the best desserts in the world. What do you think about that? Busker. Bluey's wedding episode will also show a very important character, Busker, and this time we're going to watch an episode that focuses a little more on this character. The truth is that Busker is a character who pays tribute to the creator of the show's soundtrack, Geoff Bush. If you watch the series, you probably know that Bluey's music is wonderful and emotional. In fact, every episode has its own unique soundtrack. At Frisky's wedding, Busker was the one who performed the ceremony. That's why everyone thinks he will do the same thing on the day of Bluey and Mackenzie's wedding, and it's going to be incredibly emotional. We might even discover what his connection to the Healer family is, since he was at Frisky's wedding. Our guess is that he was a schoolmate of Bandit back when Mr. Healer was a kid, and you can bet that the soundtrack for this episode will be absolutely amazing. There's a new video here every day, so subscribe and hit the bell to stay up to date. Rugby. You know that in order to marry Bluey, Mackenzie will have to ask Bandit for her paw. Well, her hand, right? And of course you also know that Mr. Healer won't agree to give his daughter away without creating some kind of super fun challenge. Our sources say that when Mackenzie asks Bandit for Bluey's paw in marriage, Mr. Healer will only accept under one condition. The border collie will have to defeat him in a game of rugby. Wait, that's crazy! That's not how things usually work. Bluey is the one who has to accept the proposal, not her dad. But don't forget, we're talking about Bandit Healer here. Of course he's going to turn it into a fun game, so get ready for the match. Bandit's team would be him, Stripe, Radley, and Lucky's dad. Meanwhile, Mackenzie's team would be the border collie, Rusty, Jack, and Winton. In the end, Mackenzie's team would win the game because they are younger and faster, but also because Bandit only wanted to make a joke. He would have accepted the marriage anyway, but a fun game is the perfect way to welcome him into the family. London. The city of London also has something to do with Bluey's wedding. I said something, but actually it has a lot to do with it. In the episode The Show, we discover that the love between Bandit and Chili began in London when they were at a party. Of course, that's if you don't count the day they met when they were children. But now that we already know where Mr. and Mrs. Healer started dating, it's very possible that Bluey would want to visit the city where her parents fell in love. Of course, that would involve a trip to England where a big mix-up would happen. In every Bluey episode, there's always a problem to solve, and in the story of our main character's wedding, the challenge they will have to face is Mackenzie trying to find Bluey. The two of them would get separated until they meet again under Big Ben, the most famous clock in the world, and it would be right there that he asks Bluey to marry him after winning the rugby game against Bandit. Will he kneel down and show her a diamond ring? Ring. Speaking of rings, the wedding ring will be lost by the flower girl, who will probably be Frisky's future daughter. Of course, a bit of chaos on the wedding day is also going to happen. Imagine this situation. Everything is ready, the ceremony will happen in just a few hours. Bluey is already dressed as a bride, all the guests are arriving, and just when everything seems normal, we hear a scream. Everyone runs to the bathroom and we discover that the flower girl accidentally dropped the wedding ring down the sink drain. It was an accident, but now they have to rush because the water is carrying the ring farther and farther away. That's when Chili remembers those two workers who built the pond in the Healer family's backyard. They know how to deal with plumbing and they will show up there to recover the ring. And yes, the wedding will be delayed, but at least the ceremony won't be canceled. Bouquet. And of course, after that, the party will happen along with the traditional bouquet toss for the girls who want to get married. But a big surprise will happen at that moment. Bluey will secretly arrange with all the girls that they will pretend they want to catch the bouquet. Everyone except one, Indy, who will be dating Rusty at that time. Rusty will ask Bluey to hand the bouquet to Indy because he plans to propose to her that very day. It will be a moment full of emotion that will definitely make you cry, and us too. But if you want to keep having fun, we've left 2 videos on your screen so you can choose and keep having fun with us. See you in the next video!